call the gospel the greatest story ever told. But people of all faith traditions find that the holiday season is inseparable from storytelling. Join us for this very special Yuletide edition of Austin Faith Dialogue.
This is Austin Faith Dialogue, a public affairs program discussing the important crossroad of religion in life, produced by Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KTBC TV. Austin Faith Dialogue highlights the interaction of the religious community with the social and cultural issues throughout our area. Now, today's edition of Austin Faith Dialogue.
Welcome to Austin Faith Dialogue. I'm Richard Thompson, pastor of Central Presbyterian Church, and your host for today's edition. And today we are very especially pleased to have a storyteller in our midst, Jan Magic Banks, who's going to help us appreciate the connection between the holidays and storytelling.
Well, thank you, Richard. It's very nice to be here.
We're really glad to have you. And could you give our viewers a little bit of a sense of the kind of storytelling you do here in the Austin community?
Well, I'm basically a children's performer. I like to go and tell stories at the libraries, at the schools, preferably the 1st through 5th grade. And I also tell at the community places such as Elizabeth Ney, Story Fest, and Aquafest. And I'm also having a wonderful time teaching storytelling at the University of Texas for the informal classes.
I see. So you're doing performing and you're doing teaching.
Yes.
And I understand there's a kind of storytelling association here in town?
That's correct. And that is the Central Texas Storytelling Guild. And they meet once a month, and it's a wonderful organization. We actually just did our celebration on November 19th last month.
Celebration?
Celebration.
Oh, well, that's good. Well, we'll look forward to looking for that next year, maybe.
Hopefully you'll be there.
Now, let's talk about this year and this season, and the fact that Christmas seems to be just part and parcel with stories. It's kind of like the horse and carriage. And as we put this together in terms of not only the nativity, as Christians understand it, but people of all faith traditions, I'd like to just have you share with us a little bit about I know you said in your home there was something very special about Christmas and storytelling.
That's right. Storytelling really started for me as a child because we celebrated Valia, and that was Christmas Eve, where we all got together and ate wonderful food and opened presents.
And say it again, what you're celebrating what?
Valia.
Okay.
It's a European tradition. And you eat 11 foods on Christmas Eve, you open your presents, and then you sit around, and I, as a child, would find the biggest, softest lap and crawl in it, and the adults would tell us stories.
Valia, is that connected with a particular ethnic tradition?
Yes, it is. It's Slovak, Hungarian, from that area in Europe.
Okay. So it was an eating time, it was a Christmas Eve time,
yes.
It was a family time. And when you found yourself in the lap of a loved one, then what happened?
Then they began to tell stories. They did tell some Christmas stories, but they would tell stories about themselves. So we would have a gift to carry with us through all our lives of a little bit of knowing them, of their travels maybe to Europe or how they got here in the United States and how they had to struggle. And it's funny, you know, they all are older people in our lives always tell us how hard it was, but also how wonderful it was, too. How they really stuck together and helped one another.
Right. And that stuck with you, these stories?
Yes, it did.
Right. Well, I'm aware of how storytelling has a dimension to it that just, you know, prose doesn't have. It somehow gets under your skin. It gets into the depths of your being. I have a sense that our stories shape us as much as we shape our stories.
I will agree with that.
And so as you were with these folks on Christmas Eve, can you recall any particular story that carries over from that time?
Well, there's so many, particularly the ones that my Aunt Sophie would share with us, because she would tell a lot of stories about my mother that my mother would not tell.
I see.
So that's how it would work. And that's what I would like to inspire for all our Austin guests out there today that's watching, that they would develop their own sense of storytelling with their own families and friends, because these are things that are lost if they're not told.
Well, I'm also aware, working within the religious community, that especially in occasions around Christmas, you get people who are very open and receptive in a way that they aren't at other times of the year, to the warmth and the. I know on Christmas Eve I will tell stories in place of a sermon, because on an occasion like that, people are not interested so much in the doctrine of the incarnation as they are of how does the Christmas story begin to play out in our story. And I understand you have a Christmas story that you've told in maybe some other places, but you're willing to share with us here.
Yes.
And it's not Tiny Tim, but
No,
Tiny
John.
John.
And it's told from the third person. And I find from telling stories from the third person, you get a different perspective of looking at a story that you have heard over and over and over again.
Which in this case is the Nativity.
Yes, it is.
And could you tell us that story, please?
I would love to. Long, long time ago, there was a little shepherd boy, and his name was Tiny John. Now, Tiny John was very small. Even when he was born, his father held him and rocked him and said, "Oh, I hope he will grow to be big. He'll need to be strong to help me with the sheep." But Tiny John didn't grow up at all. Or should I say he didn't grow tall. He stayed very small. Now, one night, Tiny John was out in front of the house looking up at the stars, hoping that they would warm his spirit as well as to warm his body. For he only wore a tunic, the only thing he owned. His brothers and sisters had to do all the work, so he got nothing, because he was too small to help. But as he was staring at the stars, he heard a great commotion. He looked over the hill, and there he saw his father running. Behind him, his brothers and all the sheep. When all the commotion settled down, his father told this wonderful story. "You won't believe what happened to all of us tonight. We went over to the hill by Bethlehem, and there, one of the boys saw a bright star in the sky. We stared at it for a long time, and it became brighter and larger and brighter and larger till it filled the night sky like it was day. Then, all of a sudden, angels, hundreds of them, appeared in the sky, and they sang the most beautiful songs. We were scared. We covered our eyes and fell to the ground. But then we heard a beautiful voice. 'Get up. You must hear what I have to say.' When we looked up, there was a magnificent angel. We knew he was the star. And he told us that a king was born. God had sent his son to us, and he is in a cave, and that we all must go and pay homage to him. So hurry, hurry, gather all of your belongings and your best gift that you can give to the king, our Savior." So just then, everyone scattered in every direction. Tiny John's mother filled a basket full of homemade bread that she baked that day. His father selected the best of sheep. His brothers and sisters went to get their favorite thing to give to the little Christ child. But Tiny John had nothing but the tunic that he wore. So he decided he would not go. But when everyone gathered again outside, Tiny John's father began to tell the story, and something stirred inside Tiny John, and he decided, for once, my height will do me favor. I'm so tiny, they won't see me, and they won't see that I have not brought a gift. So off he went. When they came to the entrance of the cave, they whispered and said, "The child is inside." Each and every one went in quietly and slowly, and they were amazed to see how young the parents were of the babe, and that there were 3 kings already there dressed in royalty, presenting the babe with the finest gifts. Each shepherd took his turn, kneeling before the babe and presenting their gift. Each brother and sister of Tiny John took their turn until the cave was filled with people. Now it was his turn. He wiggled between all the legs and finally got to the manger. When he peeked over, he was amazed. The child, the little babe, was beautiful, all pink, and his toes and fists were curled. Then Tiny John could hear in the background everyone talking of what gifts they brought and who was there and who wasn't. And weren't the kings dressed in fine, fine robes? But then, as Tiny John looked over at the small babe, he could tell there was something wrong, something terribly wrong. The child was cold. It was shivering. So Tiny John hurried and tried to get to his parents, but he couldn't get through all the people. Then he saw all the gifts on the floor. Surely there's a blanket. And he looked through everything, and there was none. So Tiny John did the only thing he could. He took off his garment, and he stood there, naked, at the night chill, but he could handle it. And he took that robe, and he put it on the babe. Just then, everyone saw Tiny John. Oh, terror, horror. Get that filthy thing off of him. This is disgraceful. What is he doing to the little babe? Just then, Tiny John's father swooped him up in his big arm and grabbed his garment and started to leave the cave. But out of all that commotion, a soft voice said, "Stop! Stop! Bring him back!" And it was the little child's mother asking for Tiny John to come back. Tonight, our God has given us the best gift, his Son. And all of you have come here tonight presenting him with your best of gifts, and I thank you. But also tonight, a small little shepherd boy who has nothing but his robe saw that my child needed it, and he gave it. I must say to you that this is the gift my child will never, ever forget. And that's how it was on that first Christmas Eve.
Serving Austin means serving you. That has always been the primary goal of Austin Metropolitan Ministries. We are religion in action through the work of these organizations. Each plays a key role in making the capital city a better place to live, but we can't do it alone. Do you have some spare time, talents, or any resources that you can share? If you do, please call AMM at 472-7627, because serving Austin means serving you.
Welcome back to Austin Faith Dialogue on this very special edition featuring storytelling during the Yuletide season. And during our first half, we were privileged to have one guest with us, Jan Magic Banks. And this half, we are joined by still another guest, and we're delighted now to welcome Jan's helper and friend, none other than Rachel.
That's
Hello,
me.
Rachel.
Hi, Richard.
Hi, dear. Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Is this your first time ever to be on television?
No, this is my second time, but it's
Oh.
wonderful.
Well, you're experienced already, aren't you?
Yeah,
Uh-huh. Tell me about how you like that little story that we just heard about Tiny John.
I like Tiny John because he's little like me.
Uh-huh. He's little like you and anything else.
Yeah, he only had one dress to wear.
Oh, and is this your only dress?
Yeah,
Oh, my. It's a beautiful dress, by the way.
Thank
Looks
you.
very Christmassy.
yeah.
And, why do you think other children might like that story?
Well, it will help them that they need to give what they value the most
Oh,
to help other people.
Oh, I see. The most important thing to them, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to ask that you give your address at this point, but we would
good.
like for you to give us a little bit of your little spirit and your spark. And would you mind joining me in a little singing?
Sure, I'd like to sing. La 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 la.
Okay, you're warming up, in other words.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I want you to listen to this with me because, oh, I see, you do something that most people can't do, and that is you suck your foot. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I was trying to stop sucking my thumb.
Oh, I see. That's why you do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know, this Christmas season is a very joyful time, and lots of children like it because of what do they get at Christmas?
Presents.
Uh-huh. And what kinds of presents do they like a lot?
Toys.
Yeah. And a very good friend of mine, a folk singer named Tom Paxton, has written a song called The Marvelous Toy. And it's about this toy that it makes a noise, and I want you to help me do that, okay?
Okay, I like making noises.
Yeah, I imagine that's kind of easy for you, huh?
Oh, yeah.
It goes zip when it moves, and bop when it stops, and brrr when it stands still. I never knew just what it was, and I guess I never will. Hey, that's good. You did help me on that.
Yeah, because zip.
Yeah, right.
Bop.
And also, yeah, there you go. Well, it's just a very simple little thing. It says, when I was just a wee little boy, full of health and joy, my father homeward came one day, bringing with him a toy.
Oh, boy.
A wonder to behold it was, with many colors bright. The moment I laid eyes on it, it became my heart's delight. It went
Zip.
when it moved, and bop when it stopped, and when it stood still. I never knew just what it was, and I guess I never will. No, we don't know what it is, but it can still be a delight, huh?
Yeah.
And so at Christmas time, besides having a good time with our new gifts and toys, it's also the best time to talk about and sing about some, like our Christmas carols. Do you know a Christmas carol?
Sure.
Do you?
Yeah.
Like, how does yours go?
Well, I like Silent Night and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Well, now that's not quite a Christmas carol.
Oh, it's not?
No, but, you know, it's fun to sing anyway,
yeah.
isn't it? And the one I'd like to share with you is a song, a carol that comes from the land of Bohemia about a great king named Good King Wenceslas.
Oh, he's a good king, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
And can you say Wenceslas?
Wenceslas.
Well, it's close.
Yeah.
And the way it goes is, good King Wenceslas, look it out on the feast of Stephen, when the snow lay on the ground, crisp and deep and even. Brightly shone the moon that night, though the snow was cruel, when a poor man came in sight, gathering winter fuel. Now, what kind of fuel do you think he was gathering?
I don't know. What is fuel? Oil.
Well, and would it be gasoline like you put in a car?
Oh, yeah, that stuff stinks.
Yeah, no, it's not like that. This poor man was gathering wood because he was so cold and so poor and so hungry.
Wow.
Now, when the king was looking out, he called his helper, called a page. Hither, page, and stand by me. Pray thou, if you can telling yonder peasant, who is he, where and what his dwelling? Sire, he lives a good league hence, over by the mountain, near the green forest fence, by St. Agnes fountain.
What language was you singing in?
Well, that's kind of old-fashioned language, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's still a story about how we help folks, huh?
Yeah.
And the king said, bring me wine and bring me pine logs, you know, for food and dining and getting him warm. And let's go out hither even in this bitter weather.
Ooh, I don't like being cold.
Yeah,
That's
well,
why I live in Texas.
but you got this nice warm dress on, so let's go out with the king and the page. And when we go out, here's what we're going to do. We're going to notice that the servant steps right behind the king. All right?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
And then as they go, and the page in his steps that were dented, he placed his very foot, which the saint had printed. Okay? So, good Christian folk, be sure, wealth and rank possessing, when you would help the poor, you yourselves find blessing.
Just like Tiny John.
Yeah, it's a story kind of like Tiny John, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And I would like to say to you that we would like to have you come back sometime on our program.
I like it. I like it here. It's kind of nice. It has lots of lights around here.
Yeah, it is. It's very bright and very cheery.
Plus, you sing nice.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I would like to say that as you take your leave, if you're going to be taking a little nap now, I hope you rest very well.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, it's just wonderful to have Rachel as a guest. And we're looking forward now to finding someone else joining us here. And this is someone that is a little faceless at this point, as I understand. But Jen, tell us a little bit about who we have here.
Well, thank you, Richard. I'd be glad to. This is one of my broom puppets. What I use is broom and mop puppets. The brooms are boys, and the mops, of course, are the girl puppets. And I let the children participate in actually doing performances with the broom and mop puppets.
I see.
So it's wonderful. For instance, we could dress this little broom puppet up as the shepherd.
Okay, so we can make a shepherd.
Right, and the children themselves actually get to decorate. Once they learn their character and their part in the play, then they're given a puppet. And they're also given a big suitcase that's filled with all kinds of...
Kind of like this here?
Yes, I thought I'd give you some so we could see how artistic you are. We know you can sing good. Let's see what you can do with puppets.
Well,
I think this puppet's telling you that he really needs a mouth, and I think he's going to get hair first.
Well, you know, if he's a shepherd, I would start out kind of with, I think, maybe a little beard like this.
Yes, that's yes.
Okay. And then we have to kind of see which direction we're going as far as the eyes.
Yes.
I guess we can put the eyes sort of like this. I think I'll put them like this so that these eyes are looking at me.
Okay.
Now, I would talk to you, except you don't have a mouth yet. You can just kind of go back and forth and make a noise, huh? Okay. And so let's get you a mouth right away here so that we can hear how you talk, okay?
Well, that's much better. Thank you very much.
Oh, my. That's just been waiting to come out.
Oh, yeah, yes. I got lots of things to say.
Do you? Well,
yes, like
can you just hold it just for a minute, please?
Okay.
And let's see here. We've got a nose, right?
Yeah,
Here we go. Now you can breathe a little easier, huh?
Oh, much better, much better. Now I can smell all that Christmas turkey cooking.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
All right. And then to have a shepherd, I think we have to have some kind of
A
a
headdress.
robe here, or a headdress, okay. Okay, now, with this headdress, looks to me like we have to kind of fold it over and put it back the way you see in the pictures of shepherds.
So you can be very creative, Richard.
Yeah, well, I think that the main idea is, whoops, sorry about that. You have this like this for more than one reason. Can you, Shepherd, can you tell me why you wear a headdress like that?
Well, it gets very cold out there in the fields when you're watching the sheep at night.
Oh, I see. So then you can kind of wrap it around your shoulders and keep warm like that?
Yes, yes. And then when it gets very hot and the sun shines on your head, it can give you shade.
Yeah, it kind of comes over your head and keeps the sun from burning you, huh?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
And then anything else?
Well, not that I know of.
Well, I remember seeing a movie once about, you know, shepherds that the wind was blowing and the dust was blowing, and so they kind of put it over their nose to keep it from getting up in their nostrils.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, and then we had this story earlier about Tiny John, and I heard about 3 kings, but I didn't hear about any shepherds.
Well, sure you did.
Did you say something about shepherds in there?
Sure, Tiny John's father was a shepherd.
Uh-huh.
And all his brothers had to tend the sheep.
Aha.
And when they saw the great star, they were out there tending sheep.
They were the shepherds.
Yes.
And when they saw the great star, then I guess, you know, they'd be looking up and hearing the angels singing, huh?
Oh, yeah, and seeing the angels singing.
There we go.
There. Now I can see what you got up on. You need to dust the ceiling. I see some cobwebs.
Oh, well, now that's getting a little mundane here. We're talking about, you know, back when you were like out there in the fields by night watching over your flocks.
Yes, this I can see the sky. Yep, I can.
And now it looks to me like you're all set up to be going to some storytelling places this Christmas season. Are you going to be out and about here in Austin?
Oh, yes, I'm really excited. I'm going to get to play with some boys and girls, and we're going to tell some Christmas stories and hopefully the real story of Christmas.
All right. Well, listen, we really appreciate your being here today and being a guest with us along with Rachel.
Thank you, Richard.
You're welcome. And as this shepherd makes his way back out into his field to tend to his flock, I think, Jan, that we have a chance to just reflect one more time about the importance of storytelling this time of year. And I think of the great stories like Dickens' Christmas Carol and
yes. The Littlest Angel.
Littlest Angel.
Mm-hmm.
O. Henry's story about the gift of the Magi.
Oh, yes, that's a beautiful story. And the Little Match Girl.
Okay. So these are the kinds of things that help us appreciate the meaning of the season.
That's right.
Kind of adds to it and brings it down to a modern time.
That's right. And I'd also like to tell the audience that this is the opportunity when we all gather with friends and relatives and neighbors and even people that we don't know to share something from themselves. Give a gift.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Give a gift of a story and tell them something that's really important or exciting that happened in your life.
I see. So the best gift you can give is a gift of yourself.
Yes.
And what we have to give ourselves is our story.
Yes.
And maybe start some family traditions if we don't have one yet.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the one you had in your home.
That's right.
Could be begun elsewhere. Well, we would like to end, as we began, with a word of appreciation for how much storytelling adds to the season. I want to thank Jan Magic Banks and her friends for being with us, and ask you folks to be joining again next week on Christmas Sunday. In the meantime, have a joyous and wonderful Yuletide season, and peace be with you.
For more information, call Austin Metropolitan Ministries at 472-7627.